The Central Powers sense victory in the air. The Austrian forces have arrayed themselves against the French, moving the entirety of Conrad's army into Switzerland, threatening the Italians. The Italians, in fear of Conrad's army, have retreated back into Tuscany. The French forces, the Grande Armée, arrays itself in Burgundy, but faced against insurmountable odds in the form of the Austrians and the Germans. The Germans now roll with the might of their entire forces into Picardia, hoping to wipe out the French northern army. Things look quite grim for the Entente Cordiale. The British Empire seems to be stuck on its island's fortress, and the Germans do not have sufficient resources to capture that territory, not enough shipping transports available. But Germany is a presence to be reckoned with both on land as well as on sea. The Americans and the entirety of the American income is now immobile as it uses its entire strength and its entire force to engage to match with the Central Powers in the Navy, to try to regain some dominance in the Atlantic Ocean. But the Germans simply have too much of an income. Now, of course, we see the Ottoman Empire strong. The sick man of Europe is still almightily strong. And although the Indian forces here that the British can muster in India threaten some of the Ottoman holdings, ultimately the main fight and where victory lies will lie on the Western theater. The German Kaiser is quite pleased with how things have been unfolded themselves. His tactic of retreating his army from Switzerland to Lorraine, and thereby in some sense managing to engage perhaps this northern French army and bypassing the bulk of the Grande Armée, seems to have pulled off. Although he would like to see some of the presence of his navy still in action, and his planned anticipated attack into Scandinavia, his generals have advised him that now is a time to push hard against our opponent in France and to combine our forces instead of opening up new fronts against the enemy, combine our forces in such a way as to devastate our enemy wherever possible. And that is what the German Empire shall do. Welcome all to Operation Schlieffen. My name is Jinx, and this is going to be one of the last few rounds, I think, of Operation Schlieffen. Axis and Allies 1914. I think victory is in the breeze. The income disparity between the Central Powers and the Entente is something to the tune of, I believe it's somewhere to the tune of about 25 IPCs, 24 IPCs, which is, it's the amount of income that America brings into the fight and then some as well. And so with the Russians out of the picture, it's only going to get harder for the Entente to really kind of regain any victory. So I think at this point, I think it's just going to be a general victory for the Central Powers, an almighty victory on almost all fronts. With some interesting features happening. Of course, the British over here are going to steadfastly hold on to their territory, and the British in England are going to do quite fine themselves, as Germany does not have the naval capacity to do any work. But with the Italians retreating, with the French being outmassed by Austrian and German forces, and with America being tied up completely with their income, trying to match whatever Germany could throw against them, it is still unsurmountable odds for the Entente. It's been a well-played game on their hand. I think they've done the best that they could, but ultimately, I don't know how much they can pull off, unless, of course, I'm wildly unsuccessful. But I think that the numbers seem to speak for themselves at this point. But perhaps I'm overly optimistic. Let's proceed with the German turn. I have 58 IPCs. I'm getting 2 aircraft, 2 battleships, 6 infantry, 1 artillery, using up all our resources. Let's go to movement on the map. So it's going to get a little crowded, but we're going to engage the French in Picardy in an all-out fight. From Belgium, 6 infantry. From Holland, 1 fighter. From Lorraine, we have 1 tank. We have 10 infantry. And we have 11 artillery going into that territory. We are also going to do some non-combat moves. I know there's no such thing in this one. We're going to move some infantry from Alsace and from Switzerland into Lorraine. Actually, yeah, into Lorraine. We're going to move from Munich into Switzerland. All will get pretty crowded. And from Holland, we're going to move 2 infantry to Belgium. Now, the Navy has left me in a bit of a quandary as to what to do precisely. I'm not entirely sure. But here's our thoughts at the moment. We're going to move, first of all, these 2 ships get repaired, leaving us with 5 completed battleships ready to go. And so what we're going to do is we're going to move them all into Sea Zone 9 over here. Yeah, Sea Zone 9. I was tempted to launch an all-out attack against this battleship and the two transports, but I don't like to risk things if I don't have to. So these 5 battleships come off into the sea there, into Sea Zone 9, and these 4 transports are also going to come into the Sea Zone. And what we're going to do is we're going to make an all-out push towards Paris. So that means 4 tanks are going to be involved in this push. And we're also going to send 4 infantry as well. So this would be 3 and 4. And that is that. Let's see if we've... Oh, actually, I don't need to pull from here. Let me pull from this guy who's a little bit further back. So we'll see if the ships are successful. As for my forces up in Scandinavia, they're going to sit there in case an opportunity opens up. First, let's roll for the ships entering the sea zone there for the mines. The mines are going to be interesting. All right, so we have our 5 battleships, and the mines succeed on a roll of 1. That is no successes. So this might not bode well for the 4 transports as I roll, and on a roll of 1, not only will I lose a transport, but I'll lose a tank and an infantry with each one, with not a hit. So that's excellent news on our end. So mines, I occasionally overrate them. Sometimes they do some damage, but nonetheless. So these are going to participate in this fight. That's 4 additional infantry and 4 additional tanks. So I have set up a battle board here, not including the tanks, who come to think of it, there's already going to be 3 tanks, and there's going to be now additional 4 tanks, and an additional 4 infantry as well. So I believe we have sufficient resources to absolutely devastate our opponent in this territory, in this sea zone rather. So let me just, for the record here, count the dice. So I have, this will be 11, 12, 13 artillery, so 13 artillery, and to match that I have 6, another 6. There's a 5 marker down below that one, so this one's a total stack of 10. So 10, 6, and 6 leaves us with a grand total of, I know this should be simple, 22. My mind was on another thing. So 22. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Because if you include the four units coming on board, let me just double check that because my numbers weren't quite the same. 6, 6, 12 plus 10, yeah. So that should be 22. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24, 25, 26. There we go. That should be right. Okay, then we have our tanks. We have 3 that were on land and then 4 that came off the water. So that makes 7. And our 11, 12, 13 artillery. Our 1 fighter is present here. Now in defense, the Americans have 4 units, so 4, and the French have 5 units, so that's 9, 10, 11, 12 total dice rolling at 3s. So that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. There we have it. Now with our fighter support, all of our artillery gets bumped up. And let's start with the artillery. Sorry, the aircraft, and that's a miss out of 6. Well, now we start with the artillery. Out of 4, and that's plenty of hits there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That almost wipes them out. 9 hits there. Perhaps I should have left that off to the side. 9, and these are going to be the infantry supported. 10, 11, 12, 13, and 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15, they only had a grand total of 12, so I think that's sufficient dice to roll. Now let's roll for their 12 units defending. Oops, slide you over there. Now they rolled, should be at least 6. 5, and it is 5, so they undershot by a little bit, but nonetheless 5. Now we have enough units to withstand that attack, and so we're simply going to take off all the casualties here. We have 7 armor, and they had only 5 hits, so we've managed to withstand that attack. We're going to drop off our troops into this territory. And I will have to organize this a little later on. As you can see, it's gotten fairly crowded on this season, this territory here. But I will give a recount to my opponents later on, and we'll go off of that. And I do believe that covers it for these guys. So let me just put my units on the board here. 2 battleships in Sea Zone 10. Oops, you know what? I forgot to move these guys here from Berlin. I hope it's acceptable to my opponents if I do that. These guys will all come here. there. And because I specified that I moved that fighter. Normally I would have left that back, but so that one fighter could land a little further ahead. But I neglected to do that, so therefore it's a little bit behind the curve. Okay, now we place the rest of our units on the board here in Berlin, and we collect our income. Now we've captured Venice. Sorry, we've captured Picardy. So that brings us up to 59 IPCs to spend on the next round of combat. Although I might need to double check that, because with Switzerland being in the picture, perhaps I'm one short because I have 58 last turn. So I'll have to see what that is. Thank you all for watching. Cheers.